Amara Johnson was the quiet black girl everyone thought they had figured out. At Dunbar High, silence made you a target, and Amara wore her silence like armor. She didn't gossip, she didn't flinch, she didn't beg for attention the way others did. To most of the school, that made her strange. To Kyle Wickham and his pack of loud, spoiled shadows, it made her prey. In the hallways, whispers followed her the way dust trails follow running feet. There she goes, little Miss Statue. She thinks she's better than everyone. Girl acts like she's too good for this school. Amara heard it, but didn't react. She rarely reacted to anything. Her grandmother always said, "Still waters are the deepest, baby. Folks fear what they don't understand." So she kept her back straight, her steps smooth and certain, not rushed, not timid, just grounded. Most assumed she walked like that because she was stuck up. What no one knew was that Amara had been trained since the age of 6 to move with precision, balance, and discipline. What looked like quiet was actually control. What looked like indifference was strength folded in on itself. And what they mistook for weakness was a sleeping dragon. That morning, sunlight spilled through the front windows of Dunbar High, painting the hallway floors with gold. Amara moved through them like they didn't exist, or like she did and the light moved around her. Her backpack thudded softly against her shoulders with each step. She kept her gaze steady, ignoring the cluster of girls leaning against the lockers, whispering behind manicured hands. Look at her, always walking like she's got someplace important to be. No, she just wants attention, another hissed. Quiet people always do. Amara breathed slowly, feeling the familiar reminder settle into her bones. Discipline over reaction. Breath before impulse. Her mother's voice seemed to walk with her. Carry yourself like you belong, even when they tell you that you don't. She did exactly that. In AP Bio, Mr. Langley called on her almost immediately. "Miss Johnson, the next step in the transcription process?" Amara gave the answer succinctly, not a stutter, not a pause. Mr. Langley nodded with impressed approval. Her classmates did not share the sentiment. A few groaned, one muttered, "Teacher's pet." Another rolled her eyes so dramatically it threatened to detach. Amara ignored all of it. Knowledge was something no one could take from her. Not the students, not teachers who pretended not to see what happened in their classrooms, not even bullies who thought cruelty was a sport. Third period English was worse. Kyle Wickham, tall, blonde, and marinated in entitlement, slid into the desk directly behind her. His friends followed, filling the back row with cologne, cheap laughs, and louder egos. Amara didn't need to turn around to know they were already staring at her braids, whispering, plotting. The first spitball hit her shoulder before Mr. Dawson even took attendance. She didn't react. The second one landed on her notebook. Kyle leaned forward, stage whispering, "My aim's off today, sweetheart. Sorry, sweetheart." His friends snickered like hyenas behind him. Mr. Dawson looked up, saw the commotion, and then did nothing. He simply adjusted his glasses and resumed typing on his laptop. Amara fixed her eyes on the paragraph of "Their eyes were watching God" in front of her. The words felt like a lifeline, proof that strength could live quietly, until it didn't. Still, her jaw tightened. Some days ignoring them felt like lifting a mountain with her bare hands. Lunch wasn't any kinder. Amara sat at her usual table near the windows, unpacking the meal her grandmother sent with her. Warm cornbread wrapped in foil, a small container of greens, and a slice of peach she had cut herself. Simple. Comforting. Home.
She didn't need to turn around, but she did see Kyle and his group strolling through the cafeteria like they owned the cafeteria, the school, the city, maybe even the whole world. As they passed her table, one of them accidentally kicked the leg. Her drink wobbled, then toppled, spilling across the table. "Oops," Chase said with fake sympathy. "Didn't see your table there. Hard to notice things that aren't important." Coach Wickham, Kyle's father, head of athletics, and unofficial king of ignoring complaints, stood nearby. He watched the interaction with amusement. "Boys will be boys," he called, chuckling. A few teachers laughed with him. Amara didn't. She lifted her food, cleaned what she could, and finished eating in silence. Every chew was a decision, every swallow a refusal to give them what they wanted, in reaction. She remembered her sensei's voice. Never throw the first punch, but never let the last punch belong to someone else. If only Sensei Bear were here now. If only she didn't have to see the outside world through the blurry lens of restraint. The afternoon crawled by with new forms of disrespect. In world history, someone had carved a crude stick figure into her desk with the word mute under it. In algebra, Amara answered every question correctly, but was ignored repeatedly, while others, usually Kyle's cronies, were praised for half-wrong answers. By the final bell, her muscles ached from holding an energy that wanted desperately to be released. She took the long route home, weaving through the quiet neighborhood park. The air smelled like cut grass and early fall. Kids played on the swings, a dog barked happily, parents chatted at the benches. Normalcy. Peace. She needed that. But when she stepped onto the sidewalk outside the park, everything shattered. She didn't see the egg until it was already breaking. It slammed into the side of her head with a wet, sickening splat, yolk dripping down her braids, sliding warm and sticky along her neck. Laughter exploded from behind her. Kyle and his pack stood there, phones out, recording, pointing, cackling like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. "Yo, look at her face," Chase wheezed. Kyle smirked with the confidence of someone who had never faced consequences a day in his life. "What's wrong, Amara? Too quiet to fight back?" The egg yolk slid to her collarbone. The humiliation burned hotter than the sun. Her fists curled slowly at her sides. Kyle saw the movement and snorted. "Ah, she's mad. What's she gonna do? Recite a poem at us?" His friends roared behind him. Amara breathed in, a long, deep breath that touched every part of her. Then she exhaled. Her voice was steady when she spoke. "I warned you once." Kyle froze, confused. "Warned me? Warned me about what?" Amara lifted her chin, the sunlight catching her eyes like two sharp blades. "About mistaking silence," she said softly, "for fear." Kyle blinked, laughter dying in his throat, because in that moment, Amara wasn't quiet. She was focused, centered, dangerous, and calm in the way only trained warriors know how to be calm. A black belt's calm.
Kyle had picked the wrong girl. And that day, the hallways of Dunbar High would learn exactly what silence becomes when pushed too far. The yolk dripped slowly down Amara's cheek, warm, sticky, humiliating. Children in the park turned to stare. A few whispered. One little girl gasped and clung to her mother's hand. But it was the laughter. Kyle's sharp, cruel laughter that cut deepest. Amara stood completely still, her breath held inside her like a caged animal. Her fists trembled at her sides, not from fear, but from the immense pressure it took to keep herself contained. Discipline was her backbone. Control was her code. Sensei Ab had drilled it into her for years. Power isn't shown through anger, Amara. Power is shown through choices. But standing there, yolks sliding down her face while Kyle Wickham filmed her like a sideshow attraction, she felt that code fracturing. Kyle tapped his phone screen twice, zooming in on her. "Oh, this is perfect," he said. "I'm gonna post it. Egg Girl has no reaction. Has a nice ring to it." Chase doubled over laughing. "Yeah, she'll finally be famous for something." Amara's jaw flexed once. So small an action, most people would have missed it. Kyle didn't. He saw it. And the moment he did, something instinctual flickered behind his eyes. Just a spark of uncertainty. "Don't tell me you're actually mad," he scoffed. "You? Nah, you don't do emotions. You're just wallpaper." Amara blinked slowly. Wallpaper. Mute. Statue. She'd been called all three, but never by someone this eager to be proven wrong. She wiped the yolk from her braids with a single swipe of her hand. Her palm came away sticky and yellow. She stared at the mess for a long, quiet beat, like she was memorizing the moment, stamping it into her bones. Kyle's smile faltered. "What? Why are you looking at your hand like that?" Amara didn't answer, because she wasn't looking at her hand. She was looking at her limit, and realizing it had been crossed. A breeze passed through the trees overhead, rustling the leaves like a whispered warning. The joggers slowed down, sensing tension. A few kids stepped off the swings and moved closer to their parents. Even Chase shifted nervously. "Dude, maybe we should just..." Kyle ignored him and stepped closer to Amara until he was barely 2 feet away. Close enough that she could smell the cheap citrus of his cologne. Close enough that he mistook her silence for surrender. "You gonna cry now?" he taunted softly. "That what this is? We finally broke the robot?" Robot. Kyle always chose the words that hurt most. Amara didn't lift her gaze. She didn't move. She didn't even blink. She just breathed. Slowly. Deeply. Dangerously. Kyle scoffed again, louder now, projecting dominance to cover the tremor in his arrogance. "No, still nothing? Fine, let's up the game." Then, before anyone could react, he flicked another egg from his backpack. A fresh one. Unbroken. Cold. Ready. Amara saw the muscles in his wrist shift, the sign of someone about to throw. And that tiny motion was all she needed. Her grandmother's voice floated back through time. "You can endure a lot, baby, but you never have to endure cruelty." Kyle reared his arm back. The egg flew, and that was the moment the world slowed. Amara stepped aside before the egg even reached her. One clean, effortless pivot. The egg whizzed past her face, hit a tree behind her, and exploded harmlessly. Kyle's arm was still extended mid-throw. He hadn't even processed what she'd done. Amara straightened, her eyes lifting to meet his for the first time all day. Calm. Cold. Precise. It was the kind of stare Sensei Ab called a final warning, the kind that said, without words, "This is your last chance to walk away." Kyle felt it like a weight in his chest. "What was that?" he murmured. His friends looked between her and the smashed egg tree like they'd just seen something supernatural. Kyle swallowed. "Is that supposed to scare me?" He stepped closer. Too close. The mistake was instant. Amara's body reacted before thought could catch up. Years of training took over, flowing through her muscles like electricity. Her stance shifted, barely, subtly, but enough for Kyle to notice. Hey, what are you doing?" he said, stumbling back half a step.
A small crowd had gathered. Phone cameras rose, kids murmured. A few adults stepped closer, but no one intervened. Amara didn't move toward him. She didn't need to. Kyle moved for her. He shoved her shoulder, trying to reclaim control through force. That was it. She didn't strike him. She didn't kick or punch. She simply redirected. Kyle lunged. Amara twisted. One simple wrist capture, one motion, smooth as silk, and Kyle's momentum turned against him. He stumbled forward, nearly tripping over his own feet. The crowd gasped. Amara released him immediately. Kyle's cheeks burned crimson. You try to fight me?" Amara's voice finally broke its silence. "I don't fight people who don't know what they're doing," she said quietly. It was that calmness that enraged Kyle more than anything. "You think you're better than me?" he snarled. "No," Amara replied. "I think you're reckless." Kyle charged. He didn't think, he didn't plan, he just charged like an angry bull with something to prove. Amara stepped aside again, faster this time, gripped his wrist, and guided him gently but firmly into a forward drop. Kyle hit the grass with an embarrassing thud. Not harmfully, not violently, just enough to make it clear. He was outmatched. Gasps. Whispers. A few suppressed laughs. Kyle scrambled back to his feet, face red, ego shattered. "Stop laughing," he roared at the crowd. Amara stood there, breathing steadily. "You good?" she asked calmly. Kyle spat at the ground. "You're dead. You're so dead. My dad's gonna—" Amara's eyebrow lifted. "Your dad can't help you fight." Kyle froze again. And that was when he finally realized. She wasn't scared of him. Not even a little. Who are you?" he demanded. Amara's voice was low but firm. "A black belt." The crowd erupted. Kyle's face drained of color. Amara brushed past him, yolk still drying on her skin. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She didn't apologize. She walked the same way she always did, like the ground beneath her belonged to her. Kyle stared after her, chest heaving, fury shaking his bones. And for the first time in his privileged, protected life, he was afraid. Because he had picked a fight with a girl who didn't need to lift a fist to destroy him.
Kyle Wickham had never tasted humiliation before. Not real humiliation. Not the kind that makes your throat tighten and your ears burn and your brain replay the same 3 seconds of failure over and over like a scratched CD. But that afternoon, walking back into Dunbar High after being thrown by a girl he'd been bullying since freshman year, he tasted it. Every whisper in the hallway was a knife. Did you see him fall? She flipped him like nothing. Kyle got dropped by silent Amara. Someone snorted behind him. Kyle froze mid-step, fists clenching so tightly his nails bit into his palms. He spun around, expecting to see some freshman or sophomore giggling. Instead, he found a group of basketball players, juniors, almost all taller than him, huddled by the stairwell. One of them slapped another on the back, wheezing with laughter. Kyle stiffened. "You got something to say?" he snapped. The tallest guy raised his hands in surrender, still fighting a grin. "Nah, man, we just saw the video." Kyle's blood ran cold. "Video?" he repeated quietly. The players exchanged a look. "Oh, so you haven't seen it?" the tall one said. "Yeah, it's kinda everywhere." Everywhere. Kyle blinked once. Twice. Then he bolted. Down the hall, past the lockers, past the cafeteria where he'd spent months playing king of the school, straight into the boys' bathroom. He locked himself in a stall and frantically opened his phone. There it was. The first post already had 42,000 views. Kyle Wickham gets folded like laundry by the quiet girl.
He tapped it with shaking fingers. And the video played. Amara sidestepping the egg. Amara redirecting his shove. Amara flipping him like it took no effort at all. The comments came in waves. Bro trained 16 years to get bodied by peace and quiet. Amara 1, Kyle 0. I want her on my team. Wait, she's a black belt? Kyle ain't a bully no more. He a victim. Kyle's vision tunneled. His pulse roared in his ears. He slammed the phone against the stall door so hard the sound echoed through the bathroom. This is your fault. You stupid girl. You think you can embarrass me? But even as he said it, the truth crawled in like a shadow. She didn't embarrass him. He embarrassed himself. And everyone saw it. Meanwhile, across campus, Amara walked toward her last class with her shoulders straighter than they had been in years. It wasn't pride. It wasn't confidence. It was relief. Because for the first time in a long time, she hadn't swallowed injustice and smiled through it. She chose herself. And it felt right. Her braid still had a faint crumb of dried yolk clinging to one, but she didn't care. She'd clean it later. Right now, she walked with quiet dignity, ignoring the stares. Some were admiring, some skeptical, some fearful. A few girls she barely knew whispered excitedly as she passed. That flip was insane. She moved like she rehearsed it. She didn't even break a sweat. Amara tried not to smile, but the corner of her mouth twitched anyway. Until, hey. Amara turned. It was Jordan Mills, captain of the girls' soccer team. Confident, kind, someone who'd always offered nods and passing, but never conversation. Jordan gave a small, proud grin. Kyle deserved that. Amara blanked. I didn't hurt him. Yeah, that was the best part, Jordan said. Before Amara could reply, Jordan added, listen, if things get weird, you need backup, or you just want someone to sit with at lunch tomorrow, come find me. It stunned Amara. People didn't usually offer her space, or friendship, or anything that wasn't whispered mockery. She nodded slightly. Thank you. Jordan winked. Don't thank me. You just shut down the biggest bully in school. You're a legend. A legend. The word felt foreign, strange, too big for her, but warm all the same. Jordan jogged off as the bell rang. Amara started toward her classroom again, but her path was blocked halfway there. Mrs. Reynolds, AP chemistry teacher, sharp eyes, sharper opinions. Miss Johnson, she said coolly, walk with me. Amara did. Mrs. Reynolds closed the classroom door behind them, not gently. Do you realize the trouble you've caused? Amara frowned. I didn't start anything. You made a fool out of a student, in public, on camera. Amara's chest tightened. I didn't force anyone to record it. The teacher leaned in, her tone dripping with condescension. Young lady, girls like you need to be careful about how you express yourselves. You can't go around, throwing boys to the ground. Amara stared at her. Girls like you? It hit like ice water down her spine. I defended myself, she said quietly. Mrs. Reynolds scoffed. I know girls from your background can be hot-headed, but violence isn't my background. Amara interrupted. The room went silent. Mrs. Reynolds straightened, suddenly cautious. I didn't mean... Yes, Amara said calmly. You did. Mrs. Reynolds pursed her lips and crossed her arms. You're lucky Kyle isn't pushing to have you expelled. A tremor of fear slid through Amara's belly. Expelled? Before she could reply, something flickered in the doorway. A figure. Mr. Bennett, her English teacher. Quiet, observant, the kind who missed nothing. Actually, Mr. Bennett said, stepping inside, Every student has the right to self-defense. Mrs. Reynolds stiffened. This is my classroom. And that is a student who protected herself without injuring anyone. He turned to Amara and offered a small nod. You may go, Miss Johnson. Mrs. Reynolds' jaw dropped. Amara stepped out of the classroom, heart pounding. Behind her, she heard the teachers arguing in low, heated voices. Something was shifting at Dunbar High. She could feel it in her chest. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. A text from her grandmother. Baby, I heard something happened at school. Come straight home. I'm making dinner. Love you. Amara exhaled slowly. Home. Warmth. Safety. But she didn't know that outside, in the parking lot, Kyle Wickham was pacing back and forth, breath ragged, phone in hand. His father, Coach Wickham, stood beside him with a storm brewing behind his eyes. You made us look weak. You embarrassed the Wickham name. Kyle swallowed hard. What do we do? Coach placed a heavy hand on his son's shoulder. We take control back. Kyle nodded, face tightening. He wasn't done humiliating Amara. Not by a long shot. He didn't realize something critical, though. Amara wasn't done either. And the next move would escalate the entire school.
The hallway fell into that strange kind of silence that wasn't quiet at all, more like the air was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Kyle Wickham stood 5 feet from Amara, his arms still slightly extended from where he'd shoved Jordan a moment before. His friends hovered behind him like poorly trained guard dogs, restless and eager for a scene. Students gathered in clusters, phones lifted, eyes wide. No one moved. No one spoke. Except Amara. Pick it up, she said quietly, motioning toward the fallen notebook Kyle had knocked from Jordan's hands. Her tone wasn't loud, but it carried the way certain kinds of voices do, controlled, anchored, impossible to ignore. Kyle smirked. Or what? He asked, his jaw jutting forward. You gonna file a complaint? Cry about it? What are you now, hallway security? His friends snickered, but Amara saw it. The flicker in Kyle's eyes. Uncertainty. He didn't understand why she was standing there instead of shrinking back like always. It irritated him. Scared him, maybe. Bullies didn't like the unfamiliar. Slowly, deliberately, Amara stepped forward. Students parted instinctively, giving her space she had never taken before. I said pick it up, she repeated. Kyle scoffed, scooping up the notebook with exaggerated mock gentleness before tossing it in the opposite direction. It slid across the floor and hit a locker. Gasps. A few laughs. Jordan swallowed hard, frozen. Kyle leaned in close to Amara, breath hot with arrogance. You don't give orders here, I do. Amara held his gaze without flinching. You don't give orders, you throw tantrums. A ripple went through the hallway, surprised murmurs, disbelieving whispers. Kyle wasn't used to being challenged, especially not publicly. His nostrils flared. Careful, he warned. You think I won't? You already did, she cut in, gesturing to the floor, the crowd, the mess he'd made. And everyone saw it. Kyle blinked, thrown off his rhythm. His script was unraveling. Without it, he was just a boy with a loud voice and an audience he feared losing. Amara didn't give him room to recover. You want to fight someone? Try picking someone who pushes back. The hallway sound dropped a level, like someone had hit mute on the world. Kyle's eyes widened slightly. You threatening me? No, Amara said. I'm informing you. Whispers intensified. Oh, she's done, someone murmured behind a locker door. She's actually going after him. She's gonna get suspended. He's gonna hit her. No, look at her, she's calm. Calm wasn't the word. Composed, rooted, balanced. Years of kata, years of disciplined breathing,
Years of reading opponents before they made their first move. Kyle didn't know he was being sized up by someone trained to analyze distance, leverage, and timing with every blink. Kyle stepped closer, inches now separating them. "Say that again," he growled. "Which part?" Amara asked softly. "I said a lot." A few students stifled laughs. Kyle shoved her shoulder, just enough to intimidate, not enough to get him thrown off the football team. It was the kind of push boys used when they thought no one would push back. Amara didn't stumble. Not even half a step. Her feet stayed planted. Her posture didn't shift. Her eyes stayed on his. Kyle's expression faltered. He expected a recoil, a flinch, something. He got nothing. And that scared him more than if she'd hit him. "You done?" Amara asked, dusting off the spot he'd touched. "Because if your goal was to impress your father with your inability to control yourself, congratulations, you've succeeded." A sharp, collective "ooh" rippled down the hall. Kyle's face reddened. "You watch your mouth." "That's the thing," she replied. "I watch everything. All the times you knock books out of people's hands, all the comments you make because you think you're funny, all the things you get away with because your dad looks the other way." She leaned in just the slightest bit. "And I'm done watching." Kyle tried to speak, but the words tangled on the way out. You think you're better than?" "No," Amara said. "I think you're weaker than you pretend to be." Gasps, phones raised. Kyle's breath hitched. He swung his hand slightly, like more reflex than intent, like he meant to push her or grab her backpack strap. He never completed the motion. Amara shifted one foot back. Subtle, barely visible, but trained. Her stance changed, her weight centered. She didn't raise her hands. She didn't form a fist. She just aligned. Anyone with martial arts training would have recognized it instantly. Kyle's hand dropped. Some instinct he couldn't name told him not to step any closer. What are you doing?" he muttered. "I'm preventing you from making the worst mistake of your life," Amara said. Her voice wasn't threatening. It was factual. Kyle stepped back without realizing he had done it. His friends shifted uneasily. From the end of the hallway a voice barked, "What's going on here?" "Mr. Bennett." Finally. The crowd snapped into guilty attention. Kyle regained a sliver of confidence now that an adult was near. He straightened up, pointing at Amara. She was starting something." "No," Amara answered before Bennett could speak. "I ended something." Bennett looked between them, skeptical but wary. "Both of you come with me." "No," someone blurted from the crowd. It was Jordan, the boy Kyle shoved. "She didn't do anything," Jordan said firmly. "Kyle pushed me. She stepped in to stop it." Several other students chimed in. "Yeah, Kyle started it. She didn't touch him. He was bullying people again." It was the first time the hallway had ever stood on Amara's side. Kyle's jaw hung slightly open, not used to losing control of the narrative. Bennett rubbed his temples. "Kyle? Go to my office. Now." Kyle stomped away, humiliated. Amara didn't move. Jordan picked up his notebook, clutching it like something sacred. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome," she said, her voice softening. As the hallway slowly dispersed, whispers followed again, but not the mocking ones from before. That was insane. She didn't even touch him, but he backed down. Kyle looked scared. She was like, calm. Did you see her stance? Amara walked away, each step steady, breaths even. No adrenaline crash, no guilt, no fear. She felt something else entirely. Alignment. Years of training hadn't just taught her how to fight, it taught her when not to. When she pushed open the school doors into the afternoon air, the sky seemed brighter, the wind lighter, and for the first time since stepping foot in Dunar High, she felt powerful. What she didn't know was that Kyle wasn't done. Humiliated boys rarely were, and the next chapter of her life was about to be tested in ways even her discipline had never prepared her for.
Kyle Wickham didn't go home after school. He stormed across the football field behind the gym, pacing like a caged animal, hands in his hair, breath coming in hot bursts of anger and humiliation. The wind whipped across the empty bleachers, but it wasn't enough to cool the burn crawling up his neck. He replayed the hallway moment again and again. Her face, her eyes, the way she didn't even blink. He'd pushed her, and she'd absorbed it, like he was nothing. It made something deep inside him twist. Kyle wasn't used to feeling small. Not at school, not at home, not anywhere. People looked at him the way they used to look at his father, like he was destined for something bigger, stronger, louder. A Wickham never backed down, never lost control. But today he lost control in front of half the school. And Amara Johnson did it with nothing but her voice. You're weaker than you pretend to be. The words stuck like burrs under his skin. He slammed his fist into the metal bleacher, the clang echoing across the field. He didn't even care that it hurt. She thinks she won, he muttered. But it wasn't Amara he was worried about. It was everyone else. The looks, the whispers, the way his friends avoided his eyes after the confrontation, suddenly unsure of where they stood. For the first time, Kyle Wickham realized something terrifying. He wasn't untouchable. And he blamed her. All of it on her. He wasn't going to let it stand. Amara's evening moved differently. Slower. Quieter. More aware. She walked home with her backpack slung over one shoulder, phone in hand, scrolling through the dozens of messages that had poured in. She didn't usually get messages. She wasn't part of any group chats, didn't care for school drama, didn't need validation from anyone. But today, people had opinions. You are a badass. I've never seen Kyle shut up like that. Girl, what was that stance? Are you a fighter? Like, actually? Some students she barely knew sent kind words. Some warned her. Be careful. Kyle's not going to let this go. That last one she believed, even if she wasn't afraid. She reached home, a modest brick duplex with a squeaky porch step and the familiar scent of jasmine drifting from her grandmother's garden. The screen door creaked when she opened it. Mama V looked up from the kitchen table where she was shelling peas. Mija, you're late. Stayed after school, Amara said, dropping her backpack gently. Mama V narrowed her eyes. You're walking heavy. Amara blinked. Heavy? You only walk like that when you're carrying something on your spirit. That was the thing about Mama V. She didn't need details. She read Amara the way some people read weather patterns. Amara washed her hands and joined her at the table, snapping peas open one by one. The rhythm helped slow her thoughts. I had a conflict, she finally said. With who? Kyle Wickham. The pea snapping stopped. Mama V's eyes lifted, warm brown, but sharp. The coach's son? Yes. What happened? He was bullying someone. And you stepped in? Yes. And? He pushed me. Mama V waited, voice calm but expectant. And? I didn't push back. Her grandmother didn't smile, didn't lecture, didn't praise. She simply nodded.
Good. That one word washed over Amara like cool water. You used discipline, control, the strength that doesn't brag. Amara swallowed. He's gonna try something else. Yes, Mama Vi agreed, because boys who are raised to believe they're kings react badly when someone shows them they're just boys. Amara smirked despite herself. You think I should be ready? No. Mama Vi placed a pea pod aside and looked directly at her. I think you already are. Across town, in the Wickham household, the fallout took a different form. Kyle walked in through the garage door, sweaty from pacing the field for an hour. Coach Wickham sat at the kitchen island, still wearing his whistle, scrolling through his phone with that frustrated parent posture Kyle had known his whole life. You got called to the front office. Not a question. Kyle stiffened. Yeah. For what? Kyle hesitated. He replayed the scene. The humiliation. The eyes. The way Bennett dismissed him like every other time he'd been caught. A misunderstanding. His father raised an eyebrow. A misunderstanding you caused? Kyle looked down. His dad sighed, rubbing his temples. Son, you can't let people bait you. Kyle's head snapped up. She didn't bait me. But he didn't know how to finish the sentence because nothing about what Amara had done fit the categories his father expected. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't back down. She didn't swing. She just outpowered him by standing still. Who's she? His father pressed. Kyle clenched his jaw. Amara Johnson. Coach Wickham frowned. The quiet girl? The one who always has straight A's? She disrespected me. Kyle said. Coach Wickham let out a breath through his nose, the kind that meant frustration, not anger. Son, you don't get disrespected by girls who don't fight back. Kyle's jaw tightened. She does fight. His father snorted. Sure she does. Kyle stood straighter. She's a black belt. That stopped his father cold. Black belt? He repeated, as if the concept didn't fit into his worldview. Yes, Kyle snapped. In karate. His father's face shifted through several expressions. Surprise, disbelief, annoyance. So she threatened you? He asked, trying to reframe the narrative. No. She insulted you. Not really. She hit you? No. So then what exactly did she do? Kyle fell silent. His father stared at him. She didn't do anything, he finally said. And that was the truth that humiliated him the most. Amara didn't attack him. Amara didn't hurt him. Amara didn't even raise her voice. She simply made him look weak. Coach Wickham stood and placed a hand on Kyle's shoulder. Listen, son, you cannot let this girl make you look like a fool. Kyle swallowed. So what do I do? Remind everyone who you are. The words settled, and they were poison. That night, Kyle created a private group chat with a few of his closest friends, boys who worshipped him and boys who feared losing his approval. He typed, "We're not letting her get away with this."
And the responses came fast. Say less. She needs to learn her place. We'll handle it tomorrow. Kyle stared at his screen, adrenaline still humming through his blood. He didn't know what tomorrow would look like, but he knew one thing without a doubt. Amara Johnson had awakened something in him. Something ugly, something reckless, something dangerous. And tomorrow would test just how far each of them was willing to go. What Kyle didn't know, couldn't possibly know, was that Amara's entire life had prepared her for boys like him. And tomorrow she wouldn't be stepping in for someone else. She'd be stepping in for herself.
By morning, Dunar High felt different. The air hummed with a kind of electric anticipation, like people were waiting for a storm they couldn't see yet but knew was coming. Students clustered in tight groups near lockers, glancing toward the entrance every few seconds as though expecting someone to walk in carrying news that would break the whole school open. That someone, apparently, was Amara. She felt the shift the moment she stepped through the front doors. Conversations dipped. Eyes darted toward her. Whispers rose like sudden gusts of wind. For a school that normally couldn't care less about her, today they watched her like she was the main character of a movie they hadn't realized they were watching. She didn't change her walk, didn't lower her gaze, didn't speed up. Her posture stayed calm, centered, just as Sensei Abe taught her. Other people's noise isn't your responsibility. Stay in your own rhythm. So she did. Her sneakers tapped quietly against the tile floor. Her backpack felt slightly heavier, though nothing inside had changed. Her heartbeat stayed steady, but her senses sharpened. Behind the hum of whispers, she caught something else. Tension. A warning her body picked up faster than her mind did. A cluster of boys leaned against the wall near the trophy case. Kyle stood at the center, arms crossed, face set in a scowl sharp enough to cut glass. His friends were spread around him like satellites, eyes scanning the hall, waiting. Amara didn't break stride. Kyle straightened, as if bracing himself. "Morning, princess," he said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The hall went silent. Amara stopped 2 feet in front of him. "Kyle." The way she said his name, simple, unbothered, without a trace of fear, sent a flicker of irritation across his face. "You know, you made me look real stupid yesterday." Amara raised an eyebrow. "I didn't make you do anything." A few students snickered quietly. Kyle's jaw twitched. He stepped closer. "You think you're tough?" "I don't think about you at all." More snickers. A low ooh rippled along the lockers. Kyle's face hardened. "You got a mouth on you today." She didn't answer. Silence filled the space between them. That silence, strong, steady, refusing to let him control the conversation, was louder than any insult she could have thrown. It made his shoulders tense. One of Kyle's friends, Chase, stepped forward. "Bro, just leave it. Let's go." "No," Kyle snapped, eyes locked on Amara. "She wants attitude. Let's see if she can back it up." Amara's muscles remained loose, her breathing slow. She could feel him unraveling, could see it in his shifting stance, his narrowed eyes, his hands flexing like he wanted to grab something and break it. "You're trying really hard to get a reaction from me. Why?" Kyle laughed, a fake, too loud bark. "Because people like you think you're better than everyone." "People like you." Ah. There it was. The line dipped in entitlement and resentment. Amara didn't move, but her expression sharpened. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "Do you?" Kyle bristled. "I know you walk around like you're too good to sit with anyone else, like you're too smart, too perfect." "I walk alone because I mind my business. You should try it sometime."
Gasps echoed down the hallway. Kyle's face reddened. "You think you can talk to me like that?" "I just did." His chest rose sharply. Students pressed closer, forming a circle around them, even though they pretended not to. Phones came out quietly, held down low or tucked under notebooks. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken possibility. Someone was going to snap. The question was who. Kyle took another step, closer now, close enough for Amara to smell the cheap body spray he drowned himself in. "You hit me yesterday," he said. Amara blinked once slowly. "I didn't put a hand on you." "You hit my ego," he whispered. "Same thing." She didn't look away. "Your ego isn't my job to protect." Kyle's lips curled. "Maybe I should give you something real to hit this time." He lifted his hand. Several people sucked in breaths. But Amara didn't flinch, didn't tense, didn't even shift her feet. She simply angled her body the tiniest bit, eyes steady on his. "Kyle," she said softly, "if you touch me, you won't like how it ends." The hallway froze. Even Kyle hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, enough for a trained fighter like Amara to notice. But anger overrode caution. He grabbed for her wrist, fast and sloppy. Amara moved even faster. Not with a punch, not with a kick, not with anything aggressive. She simply pivoted, angled her body, and let his momentum pass her harmlessly. His own weight pulled him forward, nearly stumbling. The crowd gasped. Kyle's friends stepped back, like they weren't sure what they'd just seen. Kyle spun around, humiliated, chest heaving. "What the hell was that?" "Physics. And self-control." Her voice was steady, but inside she felt every eye on her like heat. She didn't want this attention, didn't want this moment. She knew this wasn't over, but escalating it would only make things worse. Sensei Abe always said, "Win without fighting when you can. Hit only when there is no other choice." Kyle lunged again. Amara stepped back, smooth, precise, intentional. "Kyle," someone yelled, "stop!" But he didn't. He reached for her shoulder, faster this time, more reckless, fueled by humiliation. Amara's instincts fired, but she held back. She couldn't hurt him, not here, not in school, not when the system wouldn't protect her. But she also couldn't let him touch her. As his hand neared her shoulder, a voice sliced through the tension like lightning. "Kyle Wickham, step away now!" The entire hallway snapped to attention. Principal Cortez came barreling through the crowd, her heels striking the floor in rapid fire. Behind her was Vice Principal Harris, and behind him, a furious Coach Wickham. Kyle's father took one look at the scene and paled. Cortez pointed sharply. "My office, all of you, move!" Kyle opened his mouth, maybe to deny, maybe to lie, maybe to blame, but she cut him off. Not a word. The students parted like the Red Sea as the adults marched them through. Amara followed quietly, her heartbeat steady but her thoughts racing. This wasn't over. She could feel it, in the tension crawling across Kyle's shoulders, in the way his father glanced at her like she was an inconvenience, in the tight coil of silence in the crowd they left behind. Today wasn't the climax. Today was the match being lit, and somewhere inside her, beneath all the calm and control, she felt the spark.
The hallway outside Principal Cortez's office was painfully quiet. Too quiet. Amara sat in a wooden chair pushed against the wall, hands folded neatly in her lap, breathing slow and controlled. Kyle sat 3 chairs down, bouncing his knees so hard it shook the entire row. His friends had been sent to class, but he remained, jaw locked, eyes darting between the floor and his father pacing across the room. Coach Wickham wasn't even trying to hide his panic. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he hissed at Kyle. Kyle swallowed. "Dad, I wasn't—" "Save it." Coach Wickham rubbed the back of his neck, eyes red with anger.
The school board is already on me because of the incident last semester. Now this? Kyle's cheeks flushed. I didn't touch her. You tried, Amara said calmly. Kyle's head snapped toward her. Shut up. Amara didn't even turn her head. If I wanted to embarrass you, you'd know it. Coach Wickham's nostrils flared. You watch your tone, young lady. Amara lifted her eyes to him, measured, steady. I wasn't talking to you. Silence fell so hard it felt like gravity had doubled. Coach Wickham stared at her with a mixture of disbelief and indignation. No one talked back to him. Not students, not teachers, and certainly not a quiet black girl he'd written off as invisible. But Amara wasn't invisible anymore. The door opened then, releasing a blast of cold air from the overworked AC. Principal Cortez stepped out, holding a thin folder and a tablet. Her expression was unreadable. Amara? Kyle? Inside. Kyle jumped to his feet like he'd been pushed. Amara stood calmly, smoothing her shirt before following them in. Cortez closed the door behind them, shut off the hallway noise, and gestured for them to sit across from her desk. Coach Wickham stood behind Kyle like a guard dog. Vice Principal Harris leaned against a file cabinet, arms crossed, eyes focused entirely on Amara, as if he was trying to read her thoughts. Cortez took a slow breath. I've reviewed the hallway footage. Kyle's head jerked up. Footage? Yes, Kyle, she said. This is a school. We have cameras. Coach Wickham grimaced. Cortez clicked her tablet, the room filled with the quiet sound of faint hallway noise, muffled voices, locker doors slamming. Kyle leaned forward, eyes narrowing, watching the scene unfold. There he was, walking toward Amara with his friends. There he was, starting trouble. There he was, grabbing for her. Twice. Cortez paused the video right before Amara pivoted away from his grab. She turned slowly toward him. Would you like to amend your statement, Kyle? Kyle swallowed hard. She provoked me. She said things. What things? Cortez asked. She disrespected me. So you grabbed at her in a crowded hallway? Harris said flatly. Kyle opened his mouth, then closed it. Coach Wickham stepped forward. Kyle's never been in physical trouble. He's a good kid. That is not accurate, Cortez said without looking at him. The coach stiffened. Excuse me? Cortez tapped her tablet. Last semester's cafeteria incident, the locker shoving last year, the anonymous report of verbal harassment. Kyle's ears turned red. Cortez looked up at him. The pattern is clear. Kyle's voice cracked. Dad! But Coach Wickham wasn't looking at him. He was staring at Amara. Hard. And she knew that look. The look men wore when they realized they couldn't intimidate you. And it made them furious. Cortez leaned back. Now, Amara. Amara folded her hands neatly in her lap. Yes, ma'am. You didn't retaliate. You didn't strike. You didn't escalate. You simply removed yourself from harm. Correct. And you didn't physically engage, even when Kyle made contact with your backpack. Yes. Cortez tapped her pen on the desk, thinking. How did you avoid him so easily? I've practiced martial arts for 13 years. Kyle's head snapped toward her. You're a, what, like a karate nerd? Amara didn't blink. I'm a black belt. Harris's eyebrows rose. Cortez stared at her with a new kind of respect. So, you could have hurt him. Yes, but I chose not to. For the first time, Kyle seemed uncertain, like the ground had shifted beneath him. Coach Wickham scoffed. She's lying. She doesn't look. Cortez cut him off sharply. Coach, unless you're planning to say something that won't get you written up, I suggest you stop. He clenched his jaw and stepped back. Here's what's going to happen. Kyle, you'll receive a 3-day suspension and mandatory behavioral sessions. Kyle's face went pale. Suspension? For what? For attempted physical confrontation, harassment, and escalating conflict in a public space. That's not fair. It is, and it's final.
Coach Wickham stepped forward again, voice low and dangerous. You're penalizing my son because some girl twisted around like she's in a kung fu movie? Amara looked directly into his eyes. No one penalized him for me. He penalized himself. Cortez's lips twitched, as if she was suppressing a smile. Amara, she continued, turning back to her, you are not in trouble. Amara nodded once. But I do have to ask something important. Is there any reason you didn't tell a teacher sooner? It seems this behavior has been happening for a while. Amara inhaled. Because they wouldn't have believed me. Because black girls don't get treated like victims. Because anyone who complains gets labeled dramatic. Because the system protects the loud, not the quiet. Instead of speaking those truths aloud, she simply said, I didn't want things to get worse. Harris nodded slowly. He understood. More than he said. Cortez's gaze softened. You did nothing wrong, Amara. Nothing. Amara held her chin steady. Thank you. Kyle slammed his fist against his knee. This is ridiculous. She thinks she's better than... She's not the problem. You are. The room went still. Kyle looked between his father and the principal, eyes wide, breathing fast. She wasn't doing this just to punish him. She was doing it because reality had finally caught up to him. Then Cortez closed the file. This meeting is over. Kyle stormed out, Coach Wickham following, muttering curses under his breath. Harris stepped out next. Cortez turned to Amara. You handled yourself with more control than most adults I know, but I'm going to ask you to be careful. Careful? Amara repeated. Yes, Kyle isn't the type to accept consequences. I know that too. She left the office, walking back into a hallway full of eyes. Some curious, some surprised, some impressed. But Kyle's eyes were not among them. He was gone. Yet the storm he carried wasn't. Something darker was coming. Amara could feel it like a tremor beneath her feet. The turning point had been reached, and what came next would test everything she'd ever learned.
The sun was dipping behind the rooftops as Amara stepped out of the after-school tutoring room, her binder tucked neatly under her arm. The building hummed with the low sounds of janitors vacuuming, lockers being slammed by students lingering too long, and teachers wrapping up for the night. She took a steady breath, ready to head home. Then she saw it, the silhouette leaning against the wall just past the corner. Kyle. His arms were crossed, his jaw flexing hard. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed, making the empty hallway feel sharp and cold. Amara stopped walking. He pushed off the wall, stepping into the center of the hall. So, he muttered, you think you won? Amara blinked slowly. This isn't a game. You humiliated me. You embarrassed my dad. I told the truth, she said. Kyle laughed, short and humorless. Yeah, well, in my world, that doesn't matter. Amara shifted her binder to one arm. Move, Kyle. I'm going home. He stepped closer. You don't get it. Everything was fine until you opened your mouth. Now I'm suspended. I'm off the team. I'm grounded. Everyone's whispering about me. That's not my doing, Amara said. Those are your choices catching up to you. Kyle's eyes flashed with something raw and ugly. You think you're better than me? No, she said simply, but I am stronger. Kyle's posture tightened. Not for long. He took another step toward her. Amara didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't breathe too fast. Sensei Abba always said, you don't meet a storm with panic. You meet it with a stronger center. Her center was steady. Kyle, she said softly, don't do this. Shut up. He lunged. Not for her throat, not for her hair, not for her face. He went for her shoulder, fast, reckless, muscles tense with the kind of anger that comes from losing control of your own life. Amara didn't retreat. She shifted. Her left foot slid back, hips turning, guiding her weight exactly where she wanted it.
Kyle's fingers barely grazed her before his momentum carried him off balance. She placed her palm against his forearm and redirected it. Not a strike, not a blow, just enough to send his energy sideways. He stumbled. "What the?" She didn't respond. He charged again, this time with more desperation, more fear behind the rage. He swung his arms sloppy and wide, the way boys who rely on size instead of technique always swing. Amara ducked under his arm, pivoting smoothly. Her braid brushed his elbow as she moved. Kyle spun, angry and red-faced, and came at her a third time. His hand closed around her backpack strap. That was the moment her training changed from defense to necessity. Amara lifted her arm, twisting and breaking the grip with a practiced downward rotation of her wrist. He tried grabbing again, but she stepped inside his reach, perfectly calm. No more chances. Then with controlled precision, she brought her foot behind his ankle, shifted her weight, and swept him sideways. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't flashy, it was efficient. Kyle hit the ground hard. The breath left his lungs in a sharp grunt. Ugh! He looked up at her, stunned, like he couldn't believe what had just happened, like he'd never imagined a world where the person he had tormented could put him on the floor without breaking a sweat. Amara took one step back, giving him space. This isn't revenge. It's a warning. Kyle scrambled to his knees, face red with humiliation. "You think this means anything? Your dad can't help you here." Kyle froze. Amara continued, her voice low and steady. "This isn't about school or teachers or consequences. It's about you deciding who you are." Kyle looked at her, chest heaving. "I'm not scared of you." "Then you're not paying attention." Kyle tried standing, but his pride was heavier than his body. His hand shook, whether from anger or adrenaline, Amara couldn't tell. "I didn't hurt you. I won't hurt you. But if you keep chasing a fight you can't win, someone else will." Kyle swallowed, throat clicking. For the first time he wasn't looking at her like a target, or a joke, or an obstacle. He was looking at her like a mirror he wasn't ready to face. "You made me look weak," he whispered. "No," Amara replied. "That you did yourself. I just stopped pretending not to see it." Something in Kyle cracked, not loud, not visible, but present. She could feel it. The shattering of the armor he'd built from entitlement, ego, inherited anger. He pushed himself up, leaning on the lockers for support. "You could have hurt me," he said, almost amazed. "I could have," she agreed. "But I don't need violence to prove my strength." Kyle blinked at her like she was speaking a language he'd never heard, a language he didn't understand. "Why didn't you?" he asked. "Because that's the difference between you and me. When I have power, I control it. When you have power, you destroy everything around you." Kyle's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The hallway was quiet now, almost reverent, the kind of silence that follows truth. Amara stepped back, turning toward the double doors at the end of the hall. Kyle didn't chase her. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just stood there, breathing hard, looking smaller than she had ever seen him. As she reached the doors, he called out softly, "Amara?" She paused, but didn't turn. He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. His voice crumbled under the weight of the word he had never spoken before. "Sorry." He wasn't ready to hear it, and she wasn't waiting to hear it. Without looking back, Amara pushed the doors open and stepped into the cool evening air. The sky was purple and gold, the kind that made the whole world look like it was exhaling. Her muscles were loose, her steps light, her center unshaken. For the first time in a long time, Amara didn't feel small. She didn't feel hunted. She felt seen, on her own terms. The fight was over, but the story wasn't. Because standing up for yourself isn't a single moment. It's a practice, a discipline, a lifelong vow to your own worth. And Amara Johnson, quiet no more, walked home knowing one thing. Silence not only learned to fight back, silence learned to win.